Welcome to another Walter Football video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst, the most accurate mock drafter in the world. Before we get rolling here, I suggest you click into the settings, speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5. All right, let's get into this week's mock draft. If you want to follow along with the picks, you can look in the comments below. I'll put in an outline, or you can click the link to the mock on the website. You can see stats and other height, weight, info, things like that as you're listening to me explain the picks. So this week's mock order is based on the current standings in the NFL. First overall pick, I have the Carolina Panthers taking C.J. Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State. Obviously, the Panthers need a franchise quarterback. Baker Mayfield hasn't solved the issue there, neither did Sam Darnold. Stroud could come in and be a plug-and-play upgrade in terms of a natural passer that can get the ball to the weapons they have there, like DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, assuming those guys stay on the team. Stroud, I think him or Bryce Young, interesting debate. It's going to rage, I'm sure, in the months to come. I think Bryce Young is a bit more of an instinctive passer, does a better job throwing into tighter windows, but Bryce Young is very small, very undersized. Stroud has a lot more size. The NFL teams are going to be concerned about durability with Bryce Young. They already have. I've already heard that from team people. So in the lead up to the draft, I wouldn't be surprised in the workouts and shorts and shirts and the eyeball test that Stroud excels in that regard. So we'll see. Still early, very, very early. But right now, have Stroud going to Carolina at 1. Number 2. I have the Raiders taking Will Anderson, edge rusher from Alabama. Las Vegas takes the best player available, upgrade that defense. Obviously, Chandler Jones has been a big disappointment as a free agent signing. Not that surprising. He's over 30 years old. Clearly on the decline. I thought they paid him way too much money. Did not make sense to me. But they could have Anderson come in with Crosby and Jones and form a trio and rotate those guys immediately. And then in a year, let go of Jones, get out of that contract, and then you have Anderson and Crosby for the long term. Third overall, I have the Steelers taking Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. Steelers could use some youth on that defensive line. Stephon Tuitt retired. Cam Hayward's aging. Carter gives them an interior disruptor, guy with a lot of upside, big-time skill set. Fourth overall, I have the Lions taking Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. I think Detroit will look to upgrade over Jared Goff. They could keep Goff for a year and develop the young guy, or they could trade him away, or they could just cut him without any kind of salary cap problem. So I think they need a better quarterback who can win and make plays under pressure. Goff is okay when things are going well, but when the heat gets turned up and you need him to carry you, he's not that kind of quarterback. So I can see the Lions looking for an upgrade. Fifth overall, I have Washington taking Will Levis, quarterback from Kentucky. Give them an upgrade over Carson Wentz. That trade made no sense to me at the time. I just did not think Wentz would get turned around there in Washington. And I think that obviously that has been proven true here early in the season. Levis is a really tough quarterback. He's got a cannon for an arm, good size, willing runner. He would be an immediate upgrade for Washington in terms of a quarterback with more natural quarterback instincts. Levis still has some issues that need to be ironed out in terms of holding the ball too long, avoiding the strip sack, avoiding interceptions, those kind of critical plays, but he's a good fit in Scott Turner's offense, so I like that pick for Washington. Sixth overall, I have the Texans taking Myles Murphy, defensive end from Clemson. Big-time skill set. Murphy can really dominate when he wants to. Needs to kind of get the poke of the bear to get him going sometimes, but once he is turned on, he is impossible to block. Strong, fast, athletic, huge upside. The Texans badly need a difference maker in the front seven. It just they have not done anything to replace that kind of presence from losing J.J. Watt and Clowney and Whitney Merciless. They gotta start bringing in some difference makers for that defensive front. Seventh overall, I have the Falcons taking Bijan Robinson. I didn't really like a lot of the fits here in terms of need and talent matching up for Atlanta, but Cordero Patterson is aging. He's no young running back. Even though the position change happened later in his career, they have him signed very affordably, so you could duel these two for a year and then transition to Robinson. But we've seen with Atlanta, with this regime under Terry Fontenot, they go for the big-time athlete, the big-time upside, superstar potential player, especially, obviously, offense. Their two picks have been offense with Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Robinson would fit right in that. So without a quarterback here available that's worthy of going 7th overall, I could see the Falcons not wanting to settle for a lesser talent, and they grab Robinson and continue to make that offense super scary. So when they do get that quarterback, look out, because they could be one of the best offenses in the league. 8th overall, I have the Texans taking Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. They could use a number 1 receiver. Brandon Cooks, solid pro. Nico Collins could be a solid guy, but they could use a number 1. Smith-Njigba has that kind of ability. 9th overall, I have the Eagles taking Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from Penn State. He is just an incredibly long cornerback, tough, physical, instinctive, has a really good skill set, would really be a nice upgrade for the Eagles in terms of an outside corner to pair with Darius Slay. And in the few years when Slay kind of ages out, they have their number 1 corner already in-house, ready to take over. 10th overall, I have the Seahawks taking Antonio Johnson, cornerback safety from Texas A&M. He's a Swiss Army knife back there. He can play dime linebacker, safety, nickel corner. He is dynamic, instinctive, tough tackler, really, really excellent football player, just outstanding in all aspects, is how one scout who has Texas texted me about him a little while back. So Seattle could use that difference maker in the middle of that defense at safety and corner, and I think Johnson would be a nice scheme fit there. 11th overall, Seahawks again. I have them taking Jared Verse, defensive end from Florida State. Give them more impact up front with a guy who can get after the quarterback, really improve that defensive line. 12th overall, I have Arizona taking Brian Branch, cornerback safety from Alabama. He plays that same position that Minkah Fitzpatrick did in the Alabama scheme, where he can play corner, he can play safety. Big, good speed, athletic. He could be an outside corner to pair with, Gordon. Anyways, he could be an outside corner there for Arizona, or you can move him inside and have him play some slot and some safety as well. So I like that fit for the Cardinals. 13th overall, I have the Lions taking Cam Smith, cornerback from South Carolina. Biggest need on the Lions roster is cornerback. Jeff Okudah's finally come along. He's playing good football for them this year, but Amani Aruye has been terrible. They definitely need to upgrade that position and get some help there. Cam Smith has really good length, natural cover skills. I think he'd be a good fit, immediate upgrade there for the Lions. 14th overall, I have Cincinnati taking Peter Skoronski, left tackle from Northwestern. He could be a right tackle. He has the strength to play right tackle. They could put him inside at guard. That might be his best fit in the NFL because he has like 32-inch arms. But he is quick, athletic, such a smooth mover, makes it look easy. Would be a really nice pick for the Cincinnati Bengals because that would help upgrade that offensive line, and whether they're playing him at right tackle or guard, maybe they shuffle the line around and now you upgraded that line at 2 different spots. So obviously this season has proven that line is still a work in progress and the Bengals need to do more. 15th overall, I have the Patriots taking Jalen Duncan, left tackle from Maryland. Isaiah Wynn's hitting free agency. Doesn't look like New England's in a hurry to extend him, and they could use more offensive line help. Even if Wynn comes back, you could kick Wynn inside to guard as well. 16th overall, I have Jacksonville taking Quentin Johnston, wide receiver from TCU. Give them a big play, number one receiver, big guy on the outside to go across from Christian Kirk. They need a number one receiver. They need a number one cornerback. I think those are the top needs for the Jags. And in terms of value here, with the way the mock is laid out, that the wide receiver was the better route to go. 17th overall, I have the Bears taking Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC. Justin Fields has got to get more weapons around him. The Bears need to do more in terms of giving him a receiver who can uncover, get open quickly, stretch defenses vertically. Addison's a bit undersized, but he is a playmaker. He is a weapon to get vertical. He is really good on underneath routes as well. He's so shifty, difficult for cornerbacks to run with, so I think he'd be a plug-and-play upgrade for Chicago. 18th overall, I have the Colts taking Paris Johnson, left tackle from Ohio State. They took Bernard Raymond in the third round last year, but they could kick Raymond inside to right guard, and then they'd upgrade that line at two different spots. But the Colts line just has not been as good as it has been in recent years. Obviously, they're working Raymond in at left tackle. Maybe over the course of the season he makes strides and then that issue is resolved. But I think if he doesn't really start clicking for him by the end of the season, could make sense to take a left tackle and move him inside to right guard. 19th overall, I have Miami taking Jarrett Patterson, guard center from Notre Dame. Improve that interior offensive line for the Dolphins. I think Connor Williams is just a short-term stopgap kind of veteran for them. Patterson would be a long-term solution. 20th overall, I have Tampa Bay taking Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver from LSU. Obviously, the Bucs have a very talented roster. They can go best player available, but they could use depth at wide receiver. Obviously, Julio Jones is just a short-term guy. Antonio Brown's gone. Perriman, another short-term guy. So Boutte could form a nice trio with Godwin and Mike Evans. And then you have also some depth with a really good starting caliber receiver to replace Godwin or Evans if they have injuries like they've had this season. 21st overall, I have the Chargers taking Gervin Dexter, defensive tackle from Florida. The Chargers have needed interior run defense help. Dexter is a beast against the ground game. He's big, physical, surprisingly athletic, has upside in terms of pass rush. And I think with the Chargers, with the guys they have coming off the edge, that'll really help. And Dexter just needs to get a push, and that'll help the pass rush as well. But if they let Jerry Tillery go, he's hitting free agency. It could make sense to use that first-round pick to get a young interior defensive tackle from a salary cap contract standpoint. If you're paying Khalil Mack and you're paying Joey Bosa, you might not want to invest that money in Tillery. You might want to use that money elsewhere, like offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, to spread it around the roster. All right, next up we got the Jets at 22 overall. I have them taking Zion Nelson, left tackle from Miami. Obviously, Mekhi Becton's out for the year, but if Becton does come back and is looking good, then they could kick Nelson inside to guard. Or if Becton is struggling and just can't get his act together, now they have another tackle option there for New York. 23rd overall, I have the Packers taking Anton Harrison. Little run here on offensive tackles. Give the Packers some youth up front. They could use some young offensive line talent. They always seem to have injuries up front as well, so they could use some depth there. 24th overall, I have the Ravens taking Cedric Tillman, wide receiver from Tennessee. They could use more receiver talent, get a big guy across from Rashad Bateman. That could be really helpful for Lamar Jackson. 25th overall, I have the Titans taking Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher from Notre Dame. Bud Dupree, they got to get him going with Harold Landry out for the year. If Bud Dupree, I think, doesn't answer the bell this season, then it's time to look for a guy to upgrade him, whether they rotate the three because Dupree's contract I'm not exactly sure the dead money there involved if they wanted to move on, but even if they, with Landry coming back off an injury, it would make sense in terms of having a trio there to get after the quarterback, and then in time you have Foskey and Landry as the edge rushers, and you move on from Dupree. 26th overall, I have the Giants taking Jalen Jones, cornerback from Texas A&M. He is a really good cover corner. Big, physical, athletic, fast. I really like what I've seen from him this season. Willing tackler. Look at the Miami game. He is really contributing, working hard in run defense. I definitely think that he is a guy that could rise through the process because I think he'll work out well, and I think the skill set and the tape is going to help him throughout the whole months to come. But the Giants could use more cornerback help. Bradbury's gone. Adoree Jackson's probably not a long-term guy either. So I think Jones would make a lot of sense for New York there at 26. 27th overall, I have the Cowboys taking Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech. Give them a guy to go across from Micah Parsons. Could rotate him and Doris Armstrong, keep those guys fresh, have some depth there as well. But Tyree Wilson is a big end. He's got some size, so that could help with Parsons in terms of rotating Parsons out in some obvious running situations to try and avoid injury, keep him fresh, keep him ready for critical third downs. 28th overall, I have Kansas City taking Felix Nduke-Uozma, defensive end from Kansas State. The Chiefs have a really good roster, could look more a BPA kind of route. And with Frank Clark aging, I think you could look at getting another young guy to go with George Karlaftis, get younger and cheaper there on the edge rush. 29th overall, I have the Vikings taking Clark Phillips, cornerback from Utah. Give them another corner to go with Andrew Booth. Obviously, Patrick Peterson's not a long-term player at this point in his career. 30th overall, I have the Bills taking Brian Brise, defensive tackle from Clemson. Ed Oliver's nearing free agency. We'll see if the Bills are willing to pay him. Even if they do, Brise is a really tough run defender, could go really nicely next to Oliver on the interior of that line. 31st overall, I have the Eagles taking Will McDonald, edge rusher from Iowa State. This guy is a quarterback hunter, just natural quarterback, just elite guy in terms of getting after the quarterback. He is fast, athletic, just so instinctive and natural, just a complete liability against the run, which is why he's probably more viewed as a designated pass rusher only, especially as the coaches get involved. When they're looking at the tape and they see the struggles as a run defender. And it's not that he has a bad motor or doesn't try. It's just that he's undersized. And he is gaining weight. I think what I heard from some scouts is the Iowa State staff really kind of went after it in terms of escorting him, babysitting him, getting him to eat and do everything he's supposed to do. And in that time, over the past few months, he's gained like 15 pounds and is up to 245, 250 range. So, as he gains weight and gets stronger, maybe that run defense isn't such a concern anymore. But at any rate, he'd give the Eagles a dynamic pass rusher, quarterback hunter to help close out games. Would be really, really an asset for them in the dime package and nickel. So at pick 31, I think that's a really good value for the Eagles. 38th overall, we'll get into the teams that don't have first-round picks. So up first, we have the Browns at 38. I have them taking Habuk Baldonado, edge rusher from Pitt. He's not playing as well this year as he did last season, but we'll see in the second half of the year if he gets going. But he really was impressive to close out the 2021 season, and Cleveland could use more youth at edge rusher. We'll see if Clowney comes back for a third season there. But even if he does, it wouldn't hurt to have a third guy to rotate with him and Myles Garrett. 39th overall, I have the Saints taking Josh Proctor, safety from Ohio State. Tyrann Mathieu not a long-term player at this point of his career, but even if he does get brought back next season, you could take another safety to rotate there with them and keep them fresh, have some depth there in the secondary. 43rd overall, I have the Rams taking B.J. Ojulari, edge rusher from LSU. I really like this scheme fit for Los Angeles in terms of being a guy that can play on the outside the way Von Miller did. Nice fit across from Leonard Floyd, and then with Donald on the inside, you have a really good rush package there again for the Rams. 55th overall, I have the 49ers taking Nick Broker, center, tackle, guard at Ole Miss. He's versatile. He's played a few positions there for the Rebels, and I think that'd be a really good fit, help the 49ers get some youth up front. Now, the only team without, we got the Broncos in the third round. I'll give a pick for them. I'll have them take Wanya Morris, right tackle from Oklahoma, the Tennessee transfer. He's got really good size, quickness, athleticism, just needs to get stronger, a bit more physical, but he has a really good skill set. So in the third round, I think that's a nice value for Denver because he definitely has starting potential, but most third round picks are going to need some developmental time. Wanya Morris would be no different. So that's this week's mock. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Check the links below. We got my mock, Walt's mock, position rankings. Of course, Saturdays I'm doing college game recaps, just purely looking at how the draft matchups are playing out, how the draft prospects are playing in their games. Then we also have other columns, Monday morning draft, so you want to see some head coaching, general manager candidates, they're listed in there, along with franchise spotlights and looking at some good matches of college talent to the teams in the NFL. Of course, Walt's picks on Tuesdays, having a great season, so you got to check that out as well. Of course, is the fantasy updates, ad drop, and things like that. So we got everything covered there on Walter Football. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love all of you. Take care. Be safe. I'll be back with you soon.